He's been a banker on Wall Street, a real estate strategist, and a pioneer in clean energy, but that's just the surface.
I started out cutting grasses. Next thing you know, I'm working with emerging growth companies or middle market or micro-cap companies.
Peter Peterson has lived 100 lives. Marine Corps roots, a football player, a chef, an Eagle Scout. But what defines him isn't his titles. It's his commitment.
Commitment is everything. I mean, if you're not committed, then you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Oh, if it doesn't work, oh, so what?
In a world obsessed with quick wins, he reminds us, greatness is earned, not given. And that leadership is about service.
You know, life is all about an enrollment game. You're either being enrolled in the vision or you're enrolling people in your vision.
This isn't just a story about business. It's about mindset. It's about grit. And it's about what really matters. This is Peter Peterson.
Peter, thank you for joining us on the show. The first question I always love to start out with is, who's Peter?
Who's Peter? Well, I am a diversified, lots of different background I have. I was lucky enough that my dad went to Northwestern, and when he joined the Marine Corps, he started recruiting for the Marines, and I was born outside Detroit and then got a chance to travel over the United States. We lived in California, Camp Pendleton. We came back to Washington, D.C. area, spent time in the D.C., out to Oklahoma, back to California, back to Florida, back to Washington, and then finally retired in Florida. So I was lucky enough to go to University of Florida in Gainesville, and we just won the national championship for basketball, which was pretty impressive. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty good football team this year, too. So I'm all about sponsoring and helping the team out.
So you think college sports? Because I notice I see that a lot of people are more into college than the actual major league.
It's pretty exciting to watch. But, you know, the pros, they just had the NFL draft, and that was pretty dynamic to watch what was going on with the draft. And I think Green Bay hosted it, and they had all kinds of people out. So the NFL is another whole line of business. But, you know, I like sports in general.
Yeah.
I tend to be a tennis player and a golfer. And at the same time, I appreciate playing other sports like pickleball and Padel.
What is Padel?
Padel is a combination of, I'd say, tennis, pickleball, and squash. So it's a game that started out of Mexico in the 80s and then moved. It's really dominant over in Spain. So it's a great game internationally, and it's a great game to watch because you have a court that facilitates. You can watch it, and people can see what you're doing. You can hit the glass. And it's a very fast-paced game. You get a chance to YouTube it, check it out. It's called Padel,
No, first time.
and a thicker paddle, but it's modified tennis ball. And I got a chance playing the tournament with my buddy who's from Spain,
Really?
and
Okay.
we made it all the way to the semifinals, which is pretty cool.
No.
Yeah, so it's a great game, and if you get a chance to see it, it's something that more and more courts need to be put in. We don't have any in Tampa. We got to go to Zephyr Hills. Or all the way down to St. Pete's has a new court, and in Sarasota.
Tell me something. You say you went to the semifinals with your friend. Was that just off the cuff, or do you practice before you got in?
No, it's called sure luck. I mean, I'm a handball player, pickleball player, a squash player. So I just good lucky hand-eye, and more importantly, we got lucky.
Oh, okay. I just thought you was probably, practicing a lot.
No, the joke was when I'm playing with all these guys, we're like, how long have you been playing? I said, well, this is my second day.
And they didn't believe it.
No, they just got a kick out. I was a tennis player, so.
Handball's hard, too. I'm from New York City, and
Handball's
I have a whole bunch of handball courts. So.
Well, handball's really, and cute story. We were I'm playing at Harbor Island, downtown Tampa, and I'm playing with my buddy, old timer, investment banker from Wall Street, and we're playing handball. And these two kids come up and knock on the window, and they go, "Sir, do you want to borrow our rackets?" They had no concept of what handball was, and handball is a very unique sport because you have to use both sides of your body to be able to hit the ball. Yeah. And it's really, you want to feel real dorky at times, when you're right-handed, try using your left hand to hit a ball.
No, it's tough.
Okay. But it helps you with your core. So we got a lot of the trainers playing the game, so we got them to say, hey guys, you think you're good, come on over and, this will really help your core,
The handball.
Yeah. And my dad, my dad was a Colonel Marine Corps. He's on the Marine Corps handball team.
Gotcha.
So
the handball is tough.
Yeah, but it's a
I
good.
mean, I tried when I was growing up to do handball. Then they just said, let me stick to basketball.
Okay.
You know, it's a little tough.
Well, the big beauty is we all lean to different sports. So
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so here you are, your dad's military, you're moving all over. He settles here in Florida. How long you been married? How did you meet?
So my dad retired to Clearwater my senior year of high school. So I quickly had to adapt to not knowing anybody. Ended up joining the Clearwater High football team, and
Like, if you don't mind me, was that tough? Because now that I think about it, you was moving a lot. So you always had to make new friends quick, correct?
absolutely.
Which probably paid off in the future.
Oh, it totally pays off. But it's the mindset you had to be, because like, okay, well, I don't know anybody, so you got to meet somebody. And next thing you know, I joined the football team, which was probably the best thing I did. I thought when I was going to Clearwater, all I thought was, okay, I'm going to the beach. I'm going to have a good time. So my dad buys a restaurant called the Italian Village Inn. Next thing you know, I'm working. I used to work under as master chef in Washington.
Okay.
So I was working at the Italian Village Inn up in in Occoquan, outside of Washington, D.C. And working the restaurant business is a great way to realize anything else you do in life, you're going to appreciate, because it's hard work. And my dad opened the restaurant, and then at the same time I got on the football team, and I'm glad I did, because that's how I ended up meeting a lot of the great guys, which over the years I still stay in touch. So
So friendship to this
Yeah.
day. Wow,
So, yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Those are the most beautiful.
So I got lucky enough to go 2 years to St. Pete JC when my dad owned the restaurant. And the beauty of going to JC was great, because we had all these professors. They lived on Island Estates, is outside of Clearwater. And these guys, Princeton, Harvard, very good teachers. They just wanted to get a house, get away from their wife, go drink. And they were phenomenal teachers. And I remember still doing a economic paper on the deregulation of the airlines, and like that's not going to happen, and it did happen. So the deregulation of the airlines. So, but going to the University of Florida was great, because I was like, wow, this is great. I had 3 majors at Florida. I clept out 2 years, and I went up there and I was going to work for myself. And then next thing you know, I graduate and I get a job with Standard Oil. So I was running a production line up in, of all places, Nashville, Georgia, just outside Valdosta.
Nashville, Georgia.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Wow. Okay.
So a little story on that front. So I've got a company right now called GI Energy, and the company called Atora Magnum. We help with sensors and technology. So I went to the World Energy Show this year in Nashville, Tennessee. We had a great time, by the way. And I met the executive director, and he got up there and said, we're in Nashville, and I used to be a DJ in Nashville. And then he let it out going, I wasn't a DJ in this Nashville, but a Nashville, Georgia. And I'm like, this is the first person I heard.
Nashville, Georgia.
Yeah. So what do? I go up and introduce myself to the executive director of the World Energy, AE, World Energy Engineers, and great guy. And he lived in Nashville, and I kind of did my little story. And so I got a chance to run into him again at the World Energy conference for AHR, which is for air conditioning.
Yeah.
And their booth was right next to ours, and we reconnected. But a small story, it's just life is all about connections, and that's my takeaway with going through life. And what I can offer to everybody is really understanding, make friends, understand how you can play it forward, help them out. I was an Eagle Scout, and I was lucky enough to work with some great scouts and great leaders. But it's all about how can you play it forward and help folks out.
What are practical tools that people could use to connect?
Well, I think connections, getting involved with your association. I would say if you're lucky enough to maybe join a fraternity when you're going to college, it's all about networking, And the old adage I always say, you can't hunt from the cave. You got to go out and meet people, okay? And you can't do everything on your phone. If you can do, events where you've got industry events, trade shows, walk the trade show, talk to everybody, find out, what drives them, what are they doing, what their products are, and then how to play it forward, how to help them out.
So curiosity?
Yeah, curiosity, yeah, absolutely. And then also on a constant learning journey where you're always learning, and, hey, that subject, like what's going on with AI, that's a lot being thrown at us. How do you get ahead of that curve,
Yeah.
So, you've got tools that you're using now as you edit your software, and which is pretty cool, which we didn't have years ago, and things keep changing. So it's almost like, life is, it's always a challenge. So it's just try to stay ahead of it and keep learning and realize that you're never going to know it all, but at least try to, keep learning something new every day. And I think you guys can, I think you know what Warren Buffett did. I think the gentleman read a book a day almost. So he took it pretty serious as far as, continuing his learning.
I told somebody that he's always reading, always constant learning. I think it's an average of 5 hours a day now.
Yeah.
That's all he does is read.
Yeah.
And looks at balance sheet.
And he's really good at it.
Yeah. He mastered it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So life is all about mastering different things, and then also, giving back. So, getting involved with the different events and people. And, at the end of the day, it's like, just get out and meet people.
Yeah. So you start your first job, and then what happens? How does your career start to flourish and blossom?
Well, it's not a direct linear acceleration up. Okay. It's basically a road of this, it's weaving through life. Okay. So, I started out cutting grasses. Then I got a chance. I cut the gentleman that owned the restaurant, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about dishwashing?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then I talked to my dad, found out my dad, worked in a restaurant when he went to Northwestern. And I ended up working for the guy and worked my way up from breading and prep work. And the next thing I was the cook. So, it was like, started that journey. And in the hours that you got to put in, when I was lucky enough, when I graduated from Florida, I worked for Amoco, and I worked on the swing shift. And so the swing shift is you work 1 week from 8 to 4. The following week, you work 4 to 12, and then it's 12 to 8.
Okay. All 3 shifts.
All 3 shifts. So every week you're rotating, and it definitely can throw you off pretty good on schedule-wise.
Wow.
So, but then it also taught you that you only go get a normal job and work whatever hours, So that kind of led to, getting into real estate. I was lucky to work with Jim Walters, worked in the advertising PR department. So I got to work with all the divisional presidents. And the great part was, and these guys were all great. They all would coach you. I was doing real estate on the side, and they were like, a couple of the guys were investors. And at the same time, they were very forthcoming with advice, saying, you got to do this stuff before you get married, because once you're married, then the rules change.
What was the rules when they saying you got to do this stuff? Was it more risk or
more risk? Yeah. If you're married, as you know, it's all about consistency of a job, consistency of cash flow. And especially as you bring other family members to the mix, you got to sponsor and take care of the family. And then if you're a risk taker and you're what you call choppy cash flow, it makes it challenging.
Yeah. Super tough.
Yeah.
So you took more risk before you
I took more risk, and definitely took more risk. I married later in life. I didn't get married till I was 36.
Okay.
So my mom thought I was Jesus, and I said, "Mom, why's that?" She goes, "Well, it seems like you love them all." So I had a good time along the way.
That's good. That's good. So you get married, and so you had a great enough time, a good runway to be very risky.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough that for my real estate career, I was with Cushman Wakefield. And it was great training, and then I set up my company called Paramount Group, and I ended up representing a number of real estate developers. And we had a great team. My brother Dale worked for me, who is a CCIM. He's now senior vice president with CBRE, and we built up Paramount Group. And then next thing you know, I'm helping a group take these auto malls nationally. Proposition 13 kicked in California. We realized we could make more money for bringing the dealers back into the city and getting sales tax off of it and putting a bond issue. So it wasn't. So the next thing you know, I got approached by a group doing, "Hey, we got this great technology, real-time informatics. We're going to do a roll-up," and it sounded great. And then we started down that track. And next thing you know, Pete Stark came along, and we realized these doctors own clinical labs, and basically there was a mandate that they had to sell because they were making a lot of money. These reagent tests and cost them maybe 50 cents, and they were charging them $100 to $150 a test. So pretty good margins, yeah.
Wow, that's almost 1,500%.
Yeah. So we're lucky on that front.
Actually double, because you said 50 cents, right?
50 cents. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like nothing. Yeah. It's like a SaaS model, yeah?
Yeah.
So we ended up rolling 35 clinical labs up. We took it on the American Stock Exchange, and we were lucky enough to, I was lucky enough at that point to go to Chicago to learn the mezzanine game, and then ended up going to Wall Street and worked for a group called Josel Lyons Ross at 200 Park Avenue. And then I was lucky enough then to set up my own broker-dealer in Tampa and called First American Investment Banking, and we're right on Harbor Island, and ended up growing that to about 160 associates. And then I had a little differences with my partner, who was a billionaire at the time, and I went to New York and joined H.C. Wainwright. We set up the New York office from Boston. And H.C. Wainwright's been around since 1868, premier firm out of Boston. So the trail always started. So I spent a few years with H.C. Wainwright, then set up Aspen Capital back 25 years ago.
And
So
when you was learning investment banking, mezzanine, that who was very instrumental in your life, right? Because was it just swim with the sharks back then? Because I know a lot of people learn that way, or do you have some key figures who really took you under their wings and taught you the business?
So I was lucky. I had a number of mentors, and I asked for it. I think one of the things with the Boy Scouts is you learn from other people that have done, and then keep doing. And I was lucky to have some good mentors. And some of it, I just went free-falled it. I just went for it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, so you started Aspen Capital 24 years ago. And what is Aspen Capital?
Oh, so Aspen's an advisory firm. At one point, we owned a broker-dealer called First American Investment Banking, and then we had another company that we had, Point Capital. So Aspen's always been advisory of helping companies. We've done a number of roll-ups. We're big in some investments now. I've got GSI Opportunity Fund. We've made a couple of investments in some great technologies. One company is called Indago. It's open source intelligence. Okay. So you think about open source as it's all about the data. If you're in a castle, you know every room in the castle. You get on top of the castle, you can see as far as horizon. Well, who on the horizon is coming at you? Okay. So, and it's all about open source intelligence, understanding there's a lot of data out there. And if you can correlate that data, you can do something with it. So we've got a report writer that helps generate reports quicker and faster, mostly for the government, but we can also take it to the commercial sector. And then I'm involved with a roll-up of, a kind of a partnership network called GI Energy, where we team up with technologies like we have a company called Magnum First that has sensors. We've got some initiatives in New York called LO97, where they're mandating building owners have to get energy efficient. So the biggest savings you can make for a building is using energy efficiency.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And if we can tie that into understanding what's going on with your data, what's going on with predictive analytics, what's happening with your building. So it's all about data. So we're in a data business now, meaning everything with AI, everything that's going on is how do you correlate data and what do you do with it? So if you can take that data and understand that, hey, I can understand what's going on with the equipment, understand with the building, occupancy level, air quality, temperature, what's going on with your equipment. We have a neat company that they do and tagged over 10 million equipment pieces, and they've got an AI component that drives that. So we're also talking about how to do energy financing and energy as a service. So it's challenging, and I'm on a learning curve all the time. I'm heading to Washington for the Better Buildings Conference in Washington this week, and it's all about how do we optimize and do a better job with our energy spend.
Yeah, and would that be better plumbing, but more efficient? Because I know these days when people say energy, I think of homes, and then they're trying to put solar to save energy. Yeah, so you don't even need solar.
So we're focused on more of the commercial side. Okay, so what we put into a building is sensors that would see what the air quality is, whether somebody's in the building, lighting controls that when you walk in, it ties into what the outside lighting is, so you don't have to go full lights. At the same time, if we're a classroom, we could set the lights at 80%, and if the teacher needs to turn it up, they can turn it up, but generally they don't. We have the tracking, a full BMS, at Building Energy Management System, where we can track what's going on with the building and all the sensors and the data and manage the energy.
Sick.
And then we have a SaaS program that lets you look at the app and say, hey, I'm a REIT. I own multiple properties. How do I track my properties? When do I know what's happening outside the norm? Okay. And you're able to track exactly how, the energy spend with your buildings.
And you can do this in more apartments.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We work with apartments. We help it from a single room to key control, even hotel rooms. So we've audited hotel rooms. So we've deployed over 10,000 sensors last year. We're on track to do a lot of things with a lot of different players, from Siemens to Manus Innovations to Dual Fuel. We're working with NYCHA, New York's Housing Authority. But the opportunity is endless, and it's needed globally. So it's not just a domestic problem. And our secret sauce is we have IoT sensors that don't require batteries. We use ambient technology, enough energy when you hit the switch to drive a little bit of energy to like your old, calculator that had a little bit of solar. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very efficient technology out of Germany, originally owned by Siemens in 2001. And then they set it off as its own entity, and it's got a whole alliance partners around the world. So we're active with helping building owners understand their data and making a building a lot more efficient. So we could save 20 to 40, 50% on energy savings, which is huge.
But knowing the little bit of real estate I've done, that's huge, just from that savings alone.
And then with what's going on with solar and what's going on, some opportunities with the battery technology, what's happening with nuclear, how to take some of this off the grid. We got a problem with our grid, as you know, in the United States and worldwide. And we've got technology that can help manage that grid technology. And then tying in with wind power and solar. And then you can create what you call a virtual power plant, where you can actually create the ability to take energy spent offline and store it on some new efficient battery technology. So we're trying to get away from lithium, which lithium kind of owns the market right now, but there's some technology on the sodium ion and some other battery technologies that we're trying to work with.
Wow, it's battery listed. And can you tell people, because, like Aspen Capital is not like a big KKR, right? But there's always sometimes a competitive advantage to team up with a boutique private equity firm or advisory firm and the big guys. Could you explain what are some of those benefits of partnering with a general?
Well, I think the partner that Aspen, we're always partnering with other partners. So, there's a lot of people that know a lot more about certain industries, logistics, healthcare. I work with a company called Aptly. We've got a disruptive healthcare company. So we're having some fun time pulling that together. But what I recommend is the bigger firms, these guys can do the bigger deals. And sometimes when you're working with emerging growth companies or middle market or micro cap companies, you got to think outside the box a little bit. And, it's a challenge. And, when you're a CEO, starter, founder of a company, and you're on a board of company, how do you help them go to the next level? And so I've been blessed with getting involved with a number of deals on the healthcare side, a number of companies on that are making a difference in technology. We've looked at a number of AI companies. We've looked at a number of companies that are outside the box. And at the same time, as people call me and say, "What do you think?" and it's like, I love to give my opinion. And if not, I know, hey, I got somebody you should need to talk to. So I think the value of the bigger firms is they have the ability to execute bigger deals. I'm lucky enough that my name's Peter Peterson. So this took me for the Blackstone Group. And even when I was at Joe Saul, they'd call and they'd say, "I'm calling from Pete Peterson's office." And I had a few people pissed off that I showed up and I wasn't the guy they thought. But, at the end of the day, it's all the way how you get through the door, okay? Yeah. I've been blessed meeting some really, really good people, and it's great. I mean, I really enjoy, and that's why I think, my hobby is really deals and people.
Yeah.
And when you understand a career is, I can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I enjoy the travel. I enjoy meeting people and any way to give back. And, what you're doing is, I think, great because I think there's so many people that have great insight. And at the end of the day, it's always learning. And I think motivation is great, especially when you get people that have done things. And I'm motivated all the time. I listen to motivational stuff. I've even got in my 5 distinctions of leadership. If it's to be, it's up to me. 100% is possible, 100% of the time. Leaders operate out of giving and contribution versus what's in it for me. Living as my stand, as if my life and other people depend on it. Wow. Leaders operate from vision and commitment. And I think commitment is a big word. And I think, my favorite saying, commitment sources a way of being. And I love sports and how teams come together and commitment, teams overcome and they're able to do things.
Talking about commitment, you probably went through some roadblocks, right? When you're going through hard times, and I never say failures, I always say the lessons learned. That's the way I like to think. How important is commitment for you to keep on when things are happening?
Oh, it's the ultimate. What the old story is, if you look at a target, you don't look at all the obstacles in between. You're committed to do what it takes to get there. Okay? Commitment is everything. If you're not committed, then you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Oh, if it doesn't work, so what? Commitment, you think about successes in your life and things you've done. Commitment and getting married to a beautiful woman here, you're committed and and it takes work. Okay? Commitment is, hey, I'm committed to the relationship. I'm committed to my job. I'm committed to be a better person. I'm committed to whatever you're committed to. It's all you put in your mindset. I look at University of Florida and how the coach got it ready to play. All these guys were not the top recruits, but he put this kind of ragtag team together to win the national title. And when you look at commitment and businesses that are successful, they make a commitment and they overcome. And yes, sometimes you got to change your business model because it's not working. Sometimes you got to listen to what's really going on, but commitment is really the key.
Yeah. And what are practical stuff that you done if you can tell your younger Peter advice, because obviously you're a very well accomplished man, but going to there, I knew there was a few, like you said, life is like this, going on one of those downhills.
Oh, it's challenging. You're going down and going, but that's also, I think your network comes in and mentors and people you can count on and, people that you're there for them, they're there for you. That goes a long way. And, I've learned a long time ago that, it's being around the right people. And, I think some of the issues with kids and getting involved with the wrong association with people, they can take you down a dark hole. And I was lucky that I was an Eagle Scout. I was lucky I never, got into drugs and, I never got into, the dark spot. Okay. And I was lucky. And I also know that, life is all about enrollment game. You're either being enrolled in the vision or you're enrolling people in your vision. Okay. And that goes from, hey, let's talk about what restaurant. And then you roll them, hey, I really want to do Italian tonight.
Yeah.
Which would be really good. Maybe a nice pesto with a nice Parmesan.
No, it's true.
So life is all about enrollment, okay? And the other one I have is get out of your own way, tag your it.
How do you get out of your own way? Abbreviate a little bit more on that. Go a little bit more detail.
Well, so sometimes that's, so I look at this as sometimes coaching, like how you showing up. So in your mind, this is how I'm showing up. Other people see showing up differently. So sometimes you realize you need to just get out of your own way and realize, that change the tack you're doing, change your mindset, get some input from other folks, listen to what's really going on. And, it's hard to get out of your own way. Okay. It really is. And you're in a wonderful relationship with a wife, and sometimes you both need to do a little shifting. She's like, honey, get out of your own way.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you give me like an example of like what happened one time, maybe a deal or even a practical example like that where your wife that you saw you getting in your way and then you said, well, I gotta get out.
Well, example, working with a merger, this is the way we need to do it. And the other side didn't want to do it that way. And it was like, basically we had to come to terms of like, okay, there's a better way of doing it. Let me stand in the question. let's think about it, and then sometimes you got to enact that 24-hour rule where you sleep on it and come back to it and say, okay, hey, this is going to work better. But sometimes you got to get determined. I think we're all at times A personalities, double A personalities. We get a little stubborn. And I think that's like when you need to get out of your own way sometimes. Like get some input from other folks. This might not be the only way of doing it, and you got to be open-minded. And it's challenging sometimes to be open-minded because it's also kind of your ego. You're kind of kicking and going, hey, this is the way I know how to do it. And then you got to be open and saying, hey, you know what? You got a better way of doing it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so in life, you either have results that you want or have stories, reasons, and justifications. Ooh, you think about it, okay? So you think about all the people that justify different things at times. And I also say, you're not your results. All they do is tell you what's working and what's missing. Okay?
Oh, man.
So
That's a gem.
So you think about, showing up and realizing that you could be a better salesman, a better person in a relationship, a better team member. Hey, I didn't really do well in that game. Well, maybe I need to pass the ball better if I'm playing basketball or whatever the sport you're playing. But at the end of the day, it's the challenge, okay? And, and when you understand that people always look at results, well, results is always not the answer. It's like, even business, okay? I didn't hit my mark on EBITDA this month, or we didn't get the revenue we thought we were.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to take a look at it. Maybe it's somebody you got a coach in your team that needs some help on the sales side, or maybe it's your customer service that's pissing off customers because they're in their own way or dealing with personal issues.
Got it.
So so it's another little zinger I got, So everything is a conversation in life and an interpretation. So you think about it, you're having this conversation with yourself. It's how you interpret it, okay? How the people around you interpret it, how you're interpreting your own actions. So, I'm just always picking up little good sayings, and it's like, I even have something in my office that I didn't bring with me. It's called Peter's Laws, and it's like, if something's not working, just go above them and make it work.
Yeah.
Okay. Bureaucracy is, you got to deal with it, so it's like all these laws that, I bought it in New Orleans when I was at a conference. And so I was thinking about taking a picture of that and I was going to share it with you guys too, but.
And words are powerful because even like you're saying from there, it's like that phrase, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. You interpret the way you want to look at life is pretty much what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Life is interpretation. I mean, that's why I think it's good to have people around you that you trust and then stand on the question and get different values from their standpoint and insights from their standpoint of maybe helping you understand it. So your conversation is, a little more, and then maybe researching the topic a little bit more and whatever. But it is a conversation. It's like sometimes we're very limited what we know. I mean, we've got certain people that just act out of, hey, this is the way it's got to be, and that's what they do. And then sometimes they back off. Case in point, Mr. Trump, Donald's great, okay? I mean, next thing you know, it's like, well, let me change my stance on that because he got some input, but
yeah,
pretty strong.
I'm flexible when he said about the tariffs.
Yeah.
The other day when he was like, I'm flexible,
Yeah, well, it's also negotiations too. I mean, I was blessed to meet him a number of times in New York as well as the World Football League, and then we did an event at his house and for Best Buddies a number of years ago. So the other thing big is I always say you can't hunt from the cave. You got to get out. I mean, kids nowadays, they live on their phones. Social media skills are challenged. I mean, I still believe in the old-fashioned thing. Hey, let me make a phone call. Let me actually talk to somebody,
Yeah.
Versus, hey, I got to do that through social media,
That's
or texting,
Pick it up.
Pick it up, yeah.
Talk to them.
Yeah, so getting back to commitment. Commitment, the source is a way of being necessary for me to accomplish my goals. So, and then I always say rocks are hard and water's wet.
Yeah.
So there's the truism of life. So, keep pick up sayings, I got more sayings. life of 4 steps of enrollment, relationships, being honest, direct, and upfront, creating an established impression of how do I open up with somebody. Create vision, value, and future possibilities through asking open-ended questions. Share my experience of what I've learned, tie their values to what I've learned, and take committed action. So commitment is the word I think of the day is commitment. So if I could circle the wagon on a number of fronts, it's committed. And, being around people that are positive and, trying to deal with, I'd say the no a-hole policy,
Yeah. You could say it.
Yeah, okay, no asshole policy.
Yeah, no, that's what I see. You're allowed to say, yeah. And then and for the audience that know that asshole is a broad way, what would you consider, what are characteristics or traits that assholes policy you're referring to?
Well, I think you got personalities that where people they're so set on their ways that they can't get out of the box. They don't listen. I mean, I've got so many people, you get them on a call and they have no clue what you said, okay? Because they're all about it's about them, okay?
Yeah.
And you've got people that they've got a tendency it's like a blackboard scratching in their own way,
Yeah.
Like a squeaky sound. And people that they're not willing to compromise. And, when you're working as a company and doing deals, it's all about give and take. A relationship. I mean, she's not always right. I mean, occasionally you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, because I know a guy that he would just test trial and ask questions. And if something didn't go right, and he was actually a former colonel, he would tell me, Elliot, just by a conversation, if he heard certain triggers, he would be like, I don't want to do business with him. Just from a conversation, Peter, what inspires you?
What inspired me? I think it's just making a difference. I mean, I started a company called Clean Fuel USA about, helping make a better, cleaner environment. I like things that align with business opportunity with making a difference. And like, big thing when I was an Eagle Scout, it was like helping these young kids and seeing the glow on their faces and understanding their parents were challenged, or maybe their parents were serving overseas, whatever. We were in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was blessed to meet some really neat leaders, both Army and other services and other successful people. And what drives me is how to play that forward and finding causes like what we're doing for GI Energy and a Magnum first. We're changing the name to a Torah. So we're getting away from the condom company to something up. So,
and I can see how important was the role of you being a part of Eagle Scout, because I can see that Eagle Scout was very impactful.
Well, it was impactful because it helped me understand that you had certain goals. You had to get the merit badges. You work with people. You had to advance, and you had targets to go for. And it was great learning from, hey, I'm learning a little bit about this, a little bit about that. But then all of a sudden you realize you're making a difference, and not everybody's an Eagle Scout. So you realize you kind of had elite. They always say is eagles fly differently. You're not at the same level. So you're up there in the higher stratosphere. So I believe in just making a difference, having fun, and working with people you enjoy working with. And when I say going back to asshole policy, it's like, there are a lot of companies that need help, but sometimes people are not coachable. They can't get out of their own way. And, helping somebody in long term on a company, it's like a marriage. And you got to be committed, and you got to work together. And it's like, and you got to have fun doing it. And if you walk home or come home and you feel like, damn, what a just challenging person, it sticks in you. And it's like, that's negative energy. So I believe in positive energy. Not that the world, you're still going to deal with assholes. I mean, let's just face the facts.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sure. It's just not going to go away. I mean, you've been there where you got an asshole waiter and he's got an attitude. Like, how did you keep this job?
Yeah. You're in the service business. I always tell my wife when I'm in a restaurant, they're in the service business.
Yeah.
That's what they expect.
Yeah. Or the Nazi or the soup kitchen, where he was like so mean to people, I was like, but that was this culture,
Yeah. What are 3 practical principles in life you have learned that the average young Peter could apply?
Well, I think the biggest thing is takeaway was get some great mentors along the way. Understanding that you know what you know, but you sure as hell don't know what you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's hard for people to fathom. Like, damn, I don't even know that. It's like, what's the possibilities out there? And then being around people that are positive, and then having fun with the right people that you can do sports with and play golf with, tennis, and you're challenged, and then at the same time is being around people that are really, really smart. I mean, I'm blessed with hanging with all these guys that are way smarter than I am. I mean, I almost feel like I love to be the dumbest guy in the room,
Yeah. I try to do that these days.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy too. I mean, I got that down pat.
How important is faith to you, Peter?
Oh no, faith's important. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we got to have faith, and you got to have the faith that you can do it. You have a faith that you've got a bigger body above, that everybody has a different way of getting there, but it's also faith is so important. I mean, if you're faith to me is what keeps you going at times. I mean, faith is that faith in life, faith that there's something better, faith that you can make a difference, faith that you can work with the right people, and keep meeting new people that you can, stretch your box a little bit. We're all in a box, and we got to get out. All of us got to get out of our comfort zone, and life is all about understanding that you got to get challenged, and challenge is great, because at the end of the day, you need people around you that are going to challenge you and say, hey, it's like sports. I think you can do better, or you're playing with somebody that you think you can beat, and you're learning how to, hey, I got to work in my game.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever it is, from golf to whatever. And I love watching some of the reincarnation of some of these golfers, and thank God Rory finally won his big, the big four, and it was a big monkey on his back. But I watched him and how he's gone through his journey. And golf's such a great game too. It teaches you how to understand it's all up here, and the game is played mentally. I mean, you could be the best golfer, but if you can't show up mentally, you got some issues.
You can have a bad game.
Yeah.
And then what would you want your legacy to look like?
Well, legacy is, hey, I love to be able to say I made a difference. I mean, I love to say that we help sponsor the right companies. I help maybe make a difference in a young person's life where, hey, here's some coaching that I can give you. And at the same time as, creating and technology and products that might make a better for all of us. And then also, how to make a better world of people getting along better, and understanding that we've got a lot of people that like to play and pull the strings of what's happening around the world. One of my best friends is former Undersecretary of Commerce, Francisco Sanchez, and we went to Florida together, and he taught at Harvard how to get to yes, which is all about negotiations. And I've been lucky enough to, get together with him at least once or twice a month. And, sitting down with him is always a great experience because, Francisco, he runs one of the biggest attorney firms as far as the international program for Holland & Knight, and just a great guy. And we were lucky enough to be fraternity brothers at University of Florida. I was lucky enough to be in SAE, and and afterwards, once I pledged SAE, I called my dad up, and my dad was so funny. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you've heard of fraternities, but I decided to join fraternity SAE, and find out my dad was not only in SAE, but he was president of Mother Mu chapter in Northwestern.
Wow.
And never bothered to tell me.
Military people have that way of...
oh, yeah. So my dad, I'm a legacy? I didn't know that, Dad. Thanks.
Wow.
But I found it, so kind of serendipitous, Yeah. So my recommendation is just keep learning, associate with good people, and you challenge yourself and challenge the people around you, and understanding that how does it raise the bar on whatever you're doing, and take committed action.
Peter, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
Thank you.